Welcome to She Counts, the Real Talk podcast for women in accounting. We're your hosts, Questian Telka
and Nancy McClelland.
And every episode, we're digging into the real experiences, challenges, and unspoken truths of life in this profession.
Because if you've ever felt like you're the only one, you're not, and you shouldn't have to figure it out alone.
A very special thanks to our Season 3 sponsors, Bill, Relay, and Carbon. We're so grateful to them for helping us bring these conversations to life, enabling us to share out loud what everyone's thinking, but no one is saying. Learn about them on our sponsors page at shecounts.show.
And if you want to support the podcast, the one thing that would make the biggest impact is to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, because reviews really do help others find us.
And remember that you can go to earmark.app to earn CPE credit. And please follow She Counts Podcast on LinkedIn to join in on the conversation.
Today's episode is called Presence, Not Performance. And we have a very special guest with us, someone who has spent her career walking into rooms that she wasn't necessarily expected to be in and absolutely owning them. We're going to talk about executive presence, what it actually is, how you build it, and why it matters so much for women in accounting.
We have Lindsay Patterson with us. Lindsay, say hi to everyone.
Hi. Thank you guys for having me.
Lindsay has built her career at the very top of our profession's institutions. She is a CEO of CPA QualityPro, a compliance platform that helps navigate the increasing complexity or complex world of firm registration and CPA licensure. Before that, Lindsay served as Executive Vice President of Membership, Marketing, and Communications at the Institute of Internal Auditors, leading global membership growth and stakeholder strategy. And then earlier in her career, she spent years at the AICPA working in support of accounting and auditing standards, the CPA exam, and professional development. She holds a CPA, a CIA, and a CAE, and she earned her
lots
CPA.
Of C's, lots of C's. Lindsay, good job on the C's.
Lots of letters. And she did this all while working full-time and raising kids. Bravo. That's quite the, I'm just like, yes.
In deference.
And this really tells you everything you need to know about her. She's been a CPA practice advisor, 40 under 40 honoree, serves on the Beta Alpha Psi board of directors. And here's the detail that we love most. She started out as a journalist.
Yes, and as a fellow writer myself, I love that so much. For me, the written word is, when I'm talking out loud, I'm blah, blah, blahing. But when I put it on paper, oh my God, everything just makes more sense to me. And so I feel a deep connection with you.
I am the same way.
Yay. Well, we love launching each episode with a story. And Lindsay, I know you have one that shaped how you think about this topic. And I want, not just for our listeners, but for me, I want to hear about that moment in your career, whether it was a room you walked into or a conversation that shifted something or a turning point where you learned and really understood what executive presence means. Because I have no clue. I feel like it's one of those things that you know it when you see it, but how do you define it and how do you get there? And what does it cost when you don't have it? Tell us.
So I have a story from very early in my career. And in fact, it was my very, very first day on the job as a reporter. So over 20 years ago, and I would not have been able to define this as executive presence at the time, but I certainly learned the consequences of not having it. So I got assigned to go cover just the most basic, boring community meeting you can imagine. Literally, it's my first day on the job, right? So they're not sending me to anywhere important. And a state representative was supposed to be speaking there, and I'm supposed to be just highlighting what he's saying. So I go in, I sit down all earnest with my little notepad, because this was the early 2000s, right? I didn't even have my laptop with me, my pen, I'm ready to go with my recorder. And he gets up, the state representative, he gets up in front of this room of 30 people. It wasn't even a huge crowd. He's like, hey, I hear that there is somebody from the Valdi Leader News here. Where is that person? And I'm, deer in the headlights, look, kind of raising my hand. And he's like, I'm not speaking as long as this woman is in the room.
That did not happen.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
A state
And
representative?
a state representative.
Okay,
Like-
now Lindsay, I'm already all up in.
Yeah.
Oh, because so our state representative, by the way, for our district is one of my clients. He's actually a tax client of mine. And he is so dedicated to the small businesses in our community that when there's something going on downstate in Springfield, I'm in Chicago. And so when there's something going on downstate that he thinks might affect us, he's like, Nancy, let's get everybody together and let's have a meeting and let's invite the news. Let's invite the reporters. Let's invite the people so that they can hear this open, honest discussion that helps us get from here to there. How dare he?
So what did you do? What did you do?
Yeah.
So I would love to say that I was like, I deserve to be in this room, sir. So if you're not going to speak, go ahead and leave. I'm not leaving. Because that's what would happen now. But I wasn't there. I'm like a freaking teenager still, right? I was still in college at this point.
Wow.
So I started tearing up in the meeting and I just walked out. I didn't say a word to anybody. I went and I sat in my car and I just started crying. And I was so mortified. And then, of course, later, because I started covering local politics, I would see him. And this man really did not respect me at all. I don't think anybody in that
really? I couldn't tell.
He probably didn't respect very many people.
No, he probably didn't. But it's like now I would look at that situation and be like, you may not respect me, but you're going to freaking fear me. But that was not where I was in life at that point. So I really learned I don't want to be that person. Now, I will say, like, many, many years later, I was working at the Texas legislature. I was working for a much more powerful individual within the House of Reps. And this same state rep came into the office wanting a meeting, and I shut him down every time. I was like, I don't care how petty I am. Like 8 years later, I remember that.
You're like, it's like you never know who you're talking to. It's like, be respectful, be polite. Like,
yeah, like if you can't be human for a good reason, like just being human, like that in and of itself is worthwhile, then be human because it could get you somewhere or hurt you if you're not. I mean, I feel like it's just a lesson we can all take from this jerk's.
Life is all about relationships. Like, be nice to people.
And he's a state representative. Like, how far is that guy going to get in politics when he's acting like that? That's just insane.
I don't think he made it too much further.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't want to be that woman. No,
you don't want to be
I don't want to be that woman.
That's right. You don't want to be that woman. So, at some point in the process or along the way, you had to make some sort of shift, right? And in order to not allow something like that to happen to you again. And so, we're here talking about specifically executive presence. And so, Nancy, you were mentioning, you're like, I don't really know what it is, what it means.
Yeah.
And it's often showing up as something in performance evaluations for women as they're trying to move into leadership roles. So let's talk about when
you've brought up in prior podcast episodes how that like vague.
Oh yeah.
The vagueness of for men, it might be like, oh, you can get this promotion if you XYZ. And for women, the words tend to be much more vague. And I feel like this is a good example of that, right? Like, you haven't made it because you don't have enough executive presence. That's why you didn't get a promotion. But then what does that mean?
Yeah. And it can be used to like, to shut someone down in a way, right?
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about what is it really? Like during that process, Lindsay, where you've kind of, you're like, this is not who I want to be. Like, I'm going to make that shift. And like, you went from that to where you are now. So you obviously gained executive presence. I know, I've been around you. So, so what is it and what is it not from your perspective?
So I think a lot of times it's traditionally defined as, confidence, how you come into a room, how you communicate, how you look. And that's how you'll see it traditionally defined. But if you were to distill that even simpler terms, I would say it's just instilling confidence in people. Like, are people confident that I'm going to do a good job, that I can lead the team, that I'm going to deliver results or do what I say I am going to do? I think how it should not be looked at as like over talking people, interrupting, being really aggressive and mean. And I say that's not, it should not look like that. But we have to recognize like it is. It is
Yeah.
viewed in that way in some office cultures. So we also have to be like just cognizant of reality, and what works in one office culture isn't always going to work in another office.
So you might have a boss who is saying you don't have enough executive presence, and then you work really hard on learning to instill confidence in others, and they might still think you don't have executive presence
Right.
because you're not the jerk who's putting their fist down on the desk and yelling at people,
Right.
or,
I worked at a
interrupting
place
others
once.
in meetings.
Oh, absolutely. And like I worked at a place once where a gentleman criticized another executive for having a Rolex, like a Rolex watch, because he thought that that showed new money. And if he wanted to instill confidence as a leader, he should at the very least have a Patek. And I'm like, what? And that's
Wait, okay, all right, girl.
Yeah.
That's two stories already that I'm like, did these things happen in real life, or are you making this up? Because that is insanity.
Because we work in male-dominated fields.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's ridiculous. And I didn't last super long in that culture because that's not a great one for me. But you have to recognize sometimes those cultures and, okay, that's just what this is here. And I've got to recognize that and either learn to play within those rules or check out and go somewhere else.
Well, yeah. And like you were saying, confidence, right? Having confidence when you are present in a meeting or you're walking into a room. And like for men, that can often be defined as being assertive, but like that is looked at often very negatively for women when you're talking about executive presence. And so it's like this very two sets of rules that we're often seeing. So
Yeah. We talked not that long ago, Question, about like being assertive is sometimes equivalent to people thinking you're a bitch.
Yes.
Like that's a really huge double standard there.
Yeah, exactly. So we have this whole industry built around teaching people, women is who we're talking about here, to have more executive presence, right? But do you feel like it's essentially flawed because we're really asking, or are we asking women or coaching them to perform at a standard that was built for and by a very specific kind of leader? And, we can talk about what that leader looks like or has in the past too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we see that a lot. And I hope that's not what we're going to be doing today. And I don't think everybody does that, but you see that so often in executive coaching. It's like, fit this specific mold, be this certain way. And this is executive presence. But we know it's not. Like you just said, well, if I do that exact same thing that Michael is doing, he's going to get praised. And people are going to say he stands up for his beliefs. They're going to be like, Lindsay's a bitch. She's aggressive. Like how often do you hear and have you guys heard like in performance reviews or other staff that a male was aggressive?
Never.
Not usually.
No.
Like that gets assigned to women.
Yes.
No, they turn aggressive into assertive if it's a man.
Yes.
And that's a good thing, right?
Yes.
But you don't hear women being like, oh, she's amazing because she's so assertive. It's like, no, if a woman's assertive, that's aggressive. It is absolutely a double standard. And I want to go back to something that you said earlier when you were talking about how you were in one of these environments where it was defined in that way, right? That you either had to learn to play along with that or leave. And I just want to make sure that the women listening here know that leaving in a situation like that is not failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, even getting fired in a situation like that is not failure, because if you are in a toxic environment, an environment where like they really are culturally associating this assertiveness, aggressiveness concept differently by gender, then I know it can be really, really hard to be asked to leave a job or feel like, well, I couldn't handle it or something like that. And I just wanted to circle back to that to say it is really valid that you have agency here and you have choices about whether you want to be in that kind of environment or not.
It's such a challenge for women, and I'll say a lot of people who are in those toxic environments, because you may not immediately have the option to leave. And you want to be able to have that option, right? But also,
Yeah.
again, recognizing reality that sometimes I am actively looking for another job and I am trying to survive in this very toxic place. And we can take steps to try to influence culture, but also recognizing like you're probably not going to be able to completely change a company culture overnight. And that is
Yes.
such a pressure and stress that we carry with us. So please don't feel like a failure if you're experiencing that, because in my experience, almost every woman who has worked in our fields or in a male dominated field has experienced this in some way. And when you're like making the comments about, oh my gosh, this happened, I feel like so many women have these stories, right? Of
Yes.
holy cow, that happened. But then we start talking and it's like, oh, wait, we all have stories like this.
Yeah, and so many of us have, I mean, I certainly have them. So many of us have in this process, it's like you stick it out, right? You're taught to like
Yep.
stay, keep going, forge ahead. And I'm just adding to what the two of you are saying and echoing it, that it's like, leave if you can, leave when you can. But again, like sometimes you have to suffer through and like stay until you find that exit. But there's like no shame in leaving and moving on to a culture and environment that is built for you, right? Or
Right.
more represents you more effectively.
So
One of the
Yeah.
things that I want to ask is if we are, we're coaching women to have an executive presence, like how can we do that and help them have that presence in a way that is not coaching them to perform to this standard that was basically built for men?
right. So I would say it's recognizing context. So we're not assimilating. We don't want to learn bad behaviors, but you want to remain professional. And what is professional in the situation that you are in? So we're not
Yeah.
teaching assimilation. We're just teaching you to be the best version of yourself and also recognizing the context in which you're operating.
Right, because the best version of yourself in one context, that actually changes based on
Right.
context, right? The best version that you are um, working with nervous small business owners is a very different version of yourself than the best version of yourself that's meeting with the chairman of the board, right? Like those are
Absolutely.
different best version. They're both me,
Mhm.
but those contexts actually are going to define what is professional in that environment and what is executive presence in that environment as well, right?
Right. So, like, how do
Yeah.
you prepare yourself in all of those situations to be like, I am going to come across confident and put together, and I'm going to instill confidence in this person, and they are going to walk away thinking what I want them to think? That all
Yeah.
requires context.
That's right. And
Yeah.
you have a fascinating, Lindsay, vantage point on this because you went from journalism to the AICPA to the EVP suite in one of the most influential organizations in the world in accounting. And you're now an entrepreneur. So that just adds another layer. How is your
Right. Talk about different
definition?
contexts,
Right,
right? Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. How is your definition of executive presence shifted and morphed across all of these chapters that you have lived? I mean, you have this incredible resume and have experienced it in so many different ways that I would love to hear how it's changed.
I think early on, I had a very traditional view of executive presence, like three-piece suit, guy might be pulling out like a pocket watch. He's speaking aggressively and assertively. I'm like, oh, that guy has executive presence. And if I saw
And I always thought for women, it meant I have to have like a Chanel
yes,
bag and I
yes,
have to have, this kind of jewelry and this kind
yep,
of put togetherness, which I will tell you, if we're gonna judge me on my ability to try to make that happen, I will fail. Like, I'm not good at it. I look like I'm dressed up for a high school play or something. Like, I'm never going to pull that off because it's so not me. And it took me such a long time to figure out how to get from, okay, well, I can't do that, but here's my best attempt at that, just wearing black clothing and the same jewelry every day because, like, I didn't know how to do it, to figuring out that, like, oh no, I can still be me in this context. That was a very long journey, but I thought executive presence was that. That's what you
Right.
see in a magazine. If you open it up and you've got that woman, look at all, I would call her put together, but I'm just as put together. I just am also spazzy, right? Like, those aren't
Same.
those aren't separate from each other.
Nancy, you haven't seen me in this light, but I feel like most people who have worked with me in the last few years, like, I would say personally that I am put together in meetings or when I'm presenting, but I absolutely would roll up to full on office meetings in like a floor length tutu gown. And I have a full black suit that I love, but it's 100% sequins. Like,
Oh, I love this
Look at me
so
wearing my
much.
sparkly shirt today, and I'm like, I'm definitely, yes, I'm on
Oh,
board, girl. I'm on board.
I am all about the black. You guys are seeing like so much color today because I have cream stripes on. So this is a big colorful day for Lindsay.
Me too. I am always trying to add more, but yes, I love that you're like, I'm gonna rock it. I'm gonna wear my sequins and I'm gonna rock it, because this is my philosophy too. Do you feel like that was a big shift for you, going from, working in these, I mean, you were at AICPA and EVP and things like that. Did that shift for you substantially when you became an entrepreneur?
I feel very, very fortunate that when I first interviewed, like as a lowly manager at the AICPA, I had ombre hair, but the bottom was like neon pink. And that's how I interviewed, and they hired me. And
That's
they never asked me
amazing.
to change it or dye it. My CEO at the IIA was great. Like, he seemed to love my fashion sense. He probably thought it was a little ridiculous, but he didn't care. So I was so fortunate to work in cultures that let me be myself. But on the flip side, like, if I'm going to dress like that, I also have the self-awareness of like, I better be prepared and I better be showing up and paying attention in meetings. Cause I think you can stretch, you can get like a little bit of leeway in certain areas, but like, don't try to push every single boundary. Like, I'm still showing up prepared and knowing my stuff, reading the materials in advance.
Well, that's really that's what's important, right? And
Yeah.
kudos to them for embracing, embracing you and like all of your, uniqueness, and accepting and recognizing. I mean, it's important. Like, we recognize those traits are important in building a culture that is accepting of everyone and their uniqueness and their differences. And then they recognize like the value that brings.
Right.
Yeah, and I have a question about that, though, because I feel like you're both sort of gesturing toward this, and I want to just get concrete and ask straight out. Do you feel like, if you are going to push some of the boundaries in terms of how so let's say we're going with your definition of executive presence, instilling confidence in others that you've got this figured out. So if my company name, for example, is the Dancing Accountant, that does not instill confidence in others. That makes it sound like I'm silly and fun and quirky, but it's not something that in and of itself instills confidence. The way that I dress probably doesn't instill confidence in some of the people who might judge me. I feel like I have to be over prepared, 120%, over deliver. I've got to be the most incredible presenter or CPA or whatever the context is. I've got to be the most incredible ever in order for them to go, oh, wait a minute, the dancing accountant or that colorful persona are not in conflict with this concept of instilling confidence in others. And it takes them, I feel like it takes some people, most people probably, a moment to judge you for that ombre hair, but then watch you kill it in whatever you just did. Do you feel like you've got to be over prepared if you're going to use your definition of executive presence as opposed to a more traditional definition?
Okay, so Nancy, I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is that the Center for Talent Innovation did some research around this, and they actually said that gravitas, like how we present ourselves, how we come in, that is overwhelmingly what people are looking at when they are determining if somebody has executive presence or not. And then communication was like about a third of it, and appearance was only like 5%. So that's good for you as long as you show up confident. Good news. Bad news. I think what you said about women having to be, well, you just said you, but I see it as women being overprepared and having to be better. That's just something that we are faced with, particularly in male dominated fields. If I show up and I am just as good as my male colleague, I'm probably going to be viewed as less competent. And there is a whole body of research to show this. So even if you didn't have, your name or you're not wearing the Chanel, unfortunately, research shows that we're still going to be perceived as slightly less competent unless we meet that, next level. We're over preparing. We're on top of things in a way that sometimes our male colleagues don't have to be.
Well,
Oh
and
my
then
gosh,
there's
that is good
also,
and bad news.
I think Vanessa Van Edwards does this, and I've talked about this before, talks about this balance between competence and warmth. So if you're a woman who is additionally also a warm individual, then people tend to see you as less competent. So
Yes.
it's like you just keep adding to the list.
You have to have both the competence and the warmth in order to get into that sweet spot.
But not too much warmth or you're viewed as less competent.
Right.
And again, you have to know like the context of what that is in every environment. How I try to present is kind to people and I want to have empathy, but then also there are going to be certain lines that somebody crosses where I'm going to shut you down hard, and knowing, well, how far can I go into that without now being assigned that bitch label and, oh, I'm not soft enough anymore. So it's an unfair reality that we are all having to live with. And is it right? No. Should we have to live with it? No. But until we can completely dominate the system, like we have to learn to sometimes work within it.
So let's learn for someone who's listening right now and she wants to start building her executive presence. So you right now who's listening to this, here's what to do. Lindsay, take it away.
And go.
Tell us.
First, audit yourself, accountants, and then audit your environment. So let's look at just yourself first and how you were presenting. Practice. Like if you were going into a difficult conversation, asking for a raise, even just a regular meeting, like maybe record yourself in advance and watch how you present. Does your body language give off what you're wanting it to give off? Are you saying things clearly? Do you sound knowledgeable? Watch that playback and say, am I like the confident person that I want to present to this particular audience? And if you have meetings, so many of our meetings are recorded Zoom meetings already. Watch that recording afterward. Watch yourself. It's not fun.
It's hard. It's not fun. That's exactly right. It's so hard to listen to ourselves.
It's not fun, but you're right. Like we have so many recorded meetings. Like we have material already.
Right. Oof. And like you can also ask your friends if you have friends or a colleague in the office. I have this lovely group of friends that I'm so thankful for. And we will constantly ask one another, like, hey, I'm going into this difficult conversation with my boss and I'm challenging him on some things. Here's how I'm going to present it. What do you guys think? Or we might do like dress rehearsals essentially for an interview. Hey, here's the questions that I think I'm going to get asked. Do you have any others? Like just prepare, rehearse what that sounds like. And if you have enough time, this is a lot, it's extra, but I've done it. Record yourself. Do not watch the video. Just listen to how you're speaking. Then watch your body language with no sound on. And then watch them together.
Oh.
So if somebody's just singing,
really? Okay, that had definitely never occurred to me. So, all right, we've got the recording. We're watching just with sound on, then we're watching just with sound off. I mean, we're not watching with sound on. We're
Don't
listening with we're only listening, and then we're only watching, and then we're doing the two together. I'd never thought to do that. That's genius.
Yeah.
It's also terrifying and horrifying, and you're like, that's what I look like, but in a good practice. Right.
That's such a good idea, because listening to your own audio with your body at the same time can be really distracting. So if you are separating the two and watching your body language, it's like, what message is my body language sending separately?
Right. Oh gosh. Because you know how I'm always joking about the fact that I'm a spaz, but it's also not a joke because I really am. And you know how when you're scrolling and they're suggesting videos to you, but they show like the sped up version of the video just as a preview? Okay. So I'm on a lot of podcasts, and we have the She Counts podcast, and I do a ton of webinars, and sometimes my own content gets advertised back to me because I'm also a consumer of these things, right? Yeah. So I'll be scrolling and I'll see me going like this. And I'm like, oh my God, Nancy, stop already. Yes. So that is a fabulous, fabulous suggestion that I am taking away and using like later today, literally. That is so smart.
It's not fun, but it's so helpful, especially if you're doing a big presentation. Like, very candidly, for every single keynote I give, I have rehearsed that thing so many times. And it's helpful not just in how you come across, but if you, for some reason, like something's not working, you can't see your notes, like you're gonna feel more prepared.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and every time I've done a large presentation, something has gone wrong.
Oh,
like
yes.
the last I presented
you
it.
Poor thing. You have had really bad luck.
Yeah, I had tech issues that were not my fault twice in front of 500 people. So that's fun. But it's like, you just you prepare as much as you can, like you said, and then you just have to fall back on like what you know, and the fact that you have the information. You have to roll with it, and that's part of it too, is just being able to roll with it.
Well, and I think like part of that dress rehearsal is also the clothes that we're wearing, because you might go on stage and you're like, I'm going to wear this super cute skirt. It's going to be amazing. But when you actually walk up the stairs in that skirt, you're like, holy hell, like I'm going to fall down. Or, okay, Nancy, I have another
rehearsing in the shoes. Rehearsing in the shoes that you're going to wear in real life is so important. That was one of the most important things I learned, practical things that I learned for theater public speaking, because I realized presenting in my go-go boots, because that's the style of dance that I do. Presenting in my go-go boots is actually really good for me because they got a big, thick heel. And, I often dance on stage when I'm doing a presentation to try to like get the audience's attention and stuff. And doing it in like stick heels, not good, bad idea. And so I found a way to sort of connect my dancing accountant persona with the presentations that I'm doing and wear comfortable shoes at the same time. And I learned that because I was rehearsing in really awful shoes. I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to fall off the stage and land in the laps of the people in the front row.
I mean, that would probably make good content later. Different kind of content, but you're going to be on social. Yeah. Okay. So I had a role a couple of years ago, and we were with an outside client meeting on Zoom, right? Gosh, this is sometimes where we cross the line on, we still got to be professional, right? So this woman shows up to this meeting. She was on my team, embarrassingly, with external clients. Homegirl's wearing a tube top, y'all. A tube top. In case you're wondering what that looks like on Zoom, it looks like you're naked.
Naked. Yes. And I know, ask me how I know. Go ahead, ask me how I know.
You did this. Lindsay did it.
And I wear sarongs all the time. And whenever I'm switching into a meeting, I take the ties of the sarong and I put them around my neck so that they can tell that there is clothing on. Yes, because I have made that mistake. Yeah.
Oh, like over a year later, we were meeting with this client and they couldn't even tell you what the meeting was about.
They were so distracted.
They talked about this woman wearing nothing in the meeting. And I was like, well, she actually had a tube top on. That didn't sound any better. Like, you would never wear a tube top to the office for that meeting.
No.
And it's made a big enough impact that now I'm like years later talking about it with you guys. So like, don't be
Yeah.
that person. Don't do that.
So, okay, you're bringing up the point of how virtual and in-person feel genuinely, they're different, right? So in addition to wearing a tube top, what are other things people get wrong on camera if we're trying to communicate executive presence? Like what do people get wrong and what do people get right when like it lands and you're like, oh, she's got executive presence?
Be on camera. Like if you're really trying to make a point, be on camera. If you are the presenter, and I know that that is not always going to be the case, but it is going to land much stronger than if you are not. And I know we get Zoom fatigue and all of that, but show up, lean in.
You know, that's
Don't
so interesting. I would
multitask.
not have expected that to be your first point because it would never occur to me not to have my camera on in an important meeting. But
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right.
I-
It happens with my husband all the time. He's a software developer, and they'll have he'll be presenting, like he'll be the main person speaking, and he like is bringing me a cup of tea, and I'm like, oh my God, are they going to see me? And he's like, oh no, I have my camera off. I'm like, you are presenting. You cannot just turn off your
Turn your camera. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see this all the time. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
I mean, we would all love, maybe we wouldn't all love,
Yeah.
but I would love to do that. But I certainly would not feel comfortable. But you're right. I see it too. It's like you go into meetings. I have never actually seen someone be the main presenter in a meeting and not have their camera on though. That's definitely like, I would be like, what's happening right now? Is your camera broken? What's wrong?
If I can't see someone's eyes, if I can't see
Exactly.
that, I don't trust them. Like that is a very important. You mentioned Vanessa Van Edwards actually earlier. Question. She also talks about how important it is for people to be able to see your hands when you first come out on stage. To be like, "Hi, how are you? Look, I'm not holding a weapon." Right?
Yeah, you don't have your hands like behind your back.
Yeah.
Right. For me to not be able to see somebody's eyes in a Zoom meeting would definitely impact how much I trusted that person.
So this is fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, what else? Tell me more.
Okay. Good lighting, good sound. I feel like I'm about to jinx myself because I'm in my New York apartment right now. But again, if you're the main presenter, try to be in a more quiet location where there's not going to be like construction going on outside of your apartment that's distracting. I'm going to wait any second. That's going to happen now. Don't scroll, multitask. We all do these things. I do it. I am just as guilty. But consider again, how do you want to present? Am I speaking? Am I trying to make an impact? Am I trying to convince someone on this call? Consider your context, as I said earlier, and adjust accordingly.
Yes. Yes, that is all excellent. I love it. And then like when it really lands, when a person on Zoom or actually let's say in person either, when a woman really lands, what are like a few things where if you went back and you replayed it, I was going to say in your head, but now that you've given me this idea of rewatching stuff
Literally.
just with sound or just with, okay, but so you're replaying it, whether it's in your head or you're watching the video or whatever. What are like 1, 2, or 3 things where you're like, that was it. That was what, again, I love your definition of executive presence. What made them, what instilled the audience with confidence that they brought to it?
They are speaking confidently, which means they're not going too fast. They're not going too slow. They're not going on and on and on. Like they made their point, they justified it if necessary, moved on. And this is for me, if I'm in a meeting and there's lots of people communicating and talking over each other, I personally love to see it when a woman is standing firm. And if a gentleman or even another woman starts to like talk over her, not out of excitement, because we all do that, but more of the disrespect, you're trying to own the conversation, just hold your ground, keep your composure, don't get too upset, even though you're probably feeling it on the inside. I know I am. But just remain calm, have that composure. I think that is very challenging. But for me personally, I'm able to do that better when I prepare. So if you are listening, I would encourage you to prepare when you're going into those meetings. Am I going to get challenged? Is, Bob over here going to interrupt me like he always does? Well, how am I going to respond when he does
React.
that?
Yeah. That's so important.
Yeah.
Like kind of planning for those things that you know are happening in advance. This is off topic of the Zoom a little bit, but this goes back to me when I was super shy, couldn't be on camera. This was like how many years ago, Nancy? Like 3, 4.
Yeah, it's funny
and
because
so
Lindsay, you don't know this probably, but Questian actually used to be a contractor for my firm, the Dancing Accountant. So I knew her back when she was like
in the day.
terrified to have her camera on or say anything in a Zoom meeting. So I remember those days. She's
Questian, I would
come a
not have
long way,
believed this
baby.
about you.
I know, right? It's totally different now. But what I was going to say was like one of the first things that I was trying to work on was like when I walked up and introduced myself to someone. So this was a few years ago. Like this was when I was just starting to take on the challenge of like being able to stand up and speak. And I was so nervous to just meet someone. So what I was going to say is that first interaction that someone has with another person is very impactful on
Yes.
creating this feeling of executive presence. So I know that you will say like you're looking that what people look for is confidence, but like can you go deeper and explain like that first moment and interaction? Like how can you establish an executive presence and what does that confidence look like?
Yes. And unfortunately, some of the research here does support traditional gender norms. But when you come in, like, shoulders back, head held high, you're looking out confidently, you're not looking down. Like, research shows that makes people think that you are a more confident person. And oftentimes you'll see people like fold in on themselves or cross their arms. You don't want to do that. And I personally have actively thought about in meetings like the man spreading. I do that.
Yeah,
She's
it's
like,
gonna
yeah.
Like,
take
I'm
up
spreading.
as
Take up space.
room
Take
as I
up
can
space.
physically take up.
Because I have every right to be here and I know that. And I'm going to show that with my body. And you're going to see that too. And is that a more masculine trait? Yes. Does the research show that it is perceived as confidence? Also, yes.
All right.
I love it.
That's another one of those good news, bad news things.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Right.
definitely. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's this double bind, right?
It
We
is.
were talking earlier, research consistently shows that these things, assertiveness, taking up space, projecting authority, it's that too much, aggressive, difficult. It's so
Yep.
so how do you navigate that double bind?
I do what works for me, and every woman is going to do what works best for her. But at this point in my career, I'm not super worried about it anymore. I'm going to be me. And if you think I'm aggressive, I cannot manage every person's perception. Can
Oof.
I recognize cultural norms? Can I operate within a level of professionalism? Can I show up as the best version of myself? Yes. Can I worry all day long about what every random person thinks about me? No, I don't have time for that.
Well, and the bottom line is we're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, right?
No.
And so it's like the
Yeah.
sooner we can accept the fact that there are people who are just not going to like us, they're just not going to
Yes.
have high
Oh
opinion
gosh,
of us.
question. Do you remember when Justine Lackey was on the show? She was like, all people are not your people.
No.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
That's okay.
Every
That's right.
person does
Some-
not need to be your person. That's okay. That's a good
I heard
point.
this from like a movie or a TV show. I can't even remember which one. So I'm sure some listeners going to be like, oh, it was this show. But it was like, you could be the most round, juiciest peach on the tree. And there's always going to be somebody who doesn't like peaches.
That's right.
Oh, that's so good.
It's true.
They
You can be the
just
best
don't
peach
like-
that there is, and someone it's like me with beans. I hate beans. You can be the best beans
I
ever
hate
made, but I
this
don't.
too. How did we never know that about each other?
I
That
don't
is
know.
kind of
So random
I
thought,
just
but
learned something new.
so I want to get a little bit provocative here.
Ooh,
and we already kind of have,
provocative.
right? So at what point does coaching women on executive presence put the burden on us as females to fix a structural problem? Like, is there a version of this conversation where we're essentially asking women to be better? And we touched on this already at assimilating.
Yeah, I'm going to have possibly a provocative answer so y'all can push back.
Oh, good, because it was a provocative question. So I think that works out perfectly for everyone.
Oh, good. So I would say, yes, we're asking women to do this. You know why? Because nobody else is going to do it for us. People in power are not just going to hand us power. Like, that's not how power systems work. We have to get in and we have to change it ourselves. And there are going to be some great allies in this, and we love them. We want them next to us. But in my experience, we're not just going to be handed something from the powers that be. They're not going to be like, oh, well, women interact this way. So
The
let's just
world's
change
not
how we
going to dominate itself. We've got to dominate
Exactly.
it more.
That's exactly why we're here, right? That's why we're doing this. This is what we're doing.
We're going to work within the systems as much as, we feel comfortable doing so. We're always going to push boundaries. And as we on this call, as other women who are listening in, as we rise to power, not only are we going to instill our own cultural norms, but I think then you'll start to see cultures change, because it's like, oh, like, this is also executive presence. This is also power. It's not going to be overnight. That's not how any culture changes, including office cultures. So I do think that we have to get in there. But also, I'm okay with getting in and usurping power and dominating. And I hope all of your listeners will be too.
I feel like you're answering both of Question's most recent questions at the same time, which I love, which is I am not going to let what they think of me, what they might think of me, affect me. And on the other hand, I am going to work within this existing power structure. So, to me, that's like when executive presence means helping women lead more effectively, because they, in being themselves and in bringing their best version of themselves to that specific context, it's useful. Right. And they can use the existing power structures to, leverage that in that context. But when people are using executive presence to teach women how to make bias more comfortable, then it goes back to what you were saying earlier. You're not trying to teach assimilation. We're not assimilating. So you're doing both of those at the same time, which I feel like is challenging, but
it's a fine
something you can learn
that we have to figure out. And then I would also encourage us, looking at this call right now, we're all 3 white women, recognizing that even our cultural norms are not going to be the same across other cultures, because I have also seen things that I can get away with and a Black female colleague has not. And
absolutely.
We don't want that to be acceptable either, right? We need to be creating systems that allow for all of these different executive presence possibilities.
That's right.
As we do rise in that power, ideally we are creating systems that are representative of broader cultures and not just our own, because I think we can easily fall into that. And I don't think any of us want to.
Yeah. And you have to be intentional. We have to be really intentional in making sure that we're doing that. We're not just building executive presence, like you said, in women alone. Like, we want to recognize the executive presence and the differences in the cultural diversity that we have, because that is creating that is what it propels everyone in the way that it should, and it teaches everyone. I mean, it's just valuable in every role and walk of life to have that diversity. I mean, the data, if you can't recognize that as a human being just in general, then look at the data, because the data proves it. So
right. And also just being a good person.
Exactly.
We have all experienced these challenges, and I'm like, man, I don't want to make somebody else feel like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly right.
And that was actually something earlier when we were talking about having to do extra preparation so that you're delivering at 120% in order to get people to take you seriously, or to see that quote unquote executive presence in however they are seeing it with Black women. Oh my gosh,
amplify
that's
it even more.
70%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I think that we've probably all seen cases where there are individuals who want to be allies and say they are allies, but we all still have these subconscious biases, and we hold women, white women, Black women, Black men, to different standards. and trying to check those as much as we can as we are evaluating others for executive presence as well.
Which takes some honest conversation, which is hard. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it absolutely
it
is.
Takes a lot of introspection and thinking about like your decisions. And again, like intentionality. So I want to ask you, what's one thing you wish someone had told you earlier in your career that you would have learned earlier, like maybe going into that first story you told us about how to have that presence, about showing up, about leadership. What's something that someone could have told you that would have saved you some pain or time?
I don't know that it would have saved me any pain because I don't know that I would have listened. But
like, so if somebody had told you, stay in that room,
right,
no matter what, would you have been like, no, because I'm just sitting here in a chair crying? Like, no, I'm not going to stay in the room.
I wouldn't have had that confidence, but I wish I knew then that most people are faking it. Like all the confidence that I see from other people, or I think they're so capable or so intelligent, and they are in their own ways. But I'm like, man, most humans are just faking it every single day. We are just doing our best, trying to get by. And I think that would have helped some.
Lindsay, because I put a lot of that is something that I love that you said that, because I get asked that question in interviews a lot. And I just think that my young self was waiting for that moment in life where I became the confident adult.
Yeah.
Right? Like when does child go away and confident adult start? And when I realized that line doesn't exist and a lot of us are carrying that scared child inside us until we die.
Yes.
Then you're like, oh, cool. Well, then I can start taking care of that scared kid because I'm also a confident adult. Like we coexist inside our bodies in that way.
And there's different principles.
Yeah. And I was going to say that one of the ways that something you said like resonated with me, Lindsay, is like this not realizing that people were faking it. And I always thought it took me until my adulthood and 3 tries before, not because I didn't have the knowledge, but mostly because I had horrible ADHD and I couldn't like stick to it. I mean, but to graduate, like to finally like graduate and get my degree, it took me a long time, multiple tries. And I thought I was lacking some, it was like I just assumed that everyone else was so confident they knew what they were doing that I was lacking some piece of knowledge. And then when I went and finished my degree, I was like, that was it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that, but like, I finished it and I was like, I didn't really need that. Like, I'm not really sure. I learned a whole lot.
I told you that. I cannot even tell you how many times I told you that you did not need your degree.
Nancy
but
did,
in the end, you needed
also,
that degree for you.
It was a personal
because it does
goal,
make you more confident, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Not necessarily the things that you learned.
How many times do you see people who you were younger and they were like your boss's boss? And you're like, oh my gosh, that person's so impressive. And they stay on that role and you rise up. And once you're their peer, you're like, actually, you're kind of an idiot.
Maybe not.
God, I love that. I love that.
Well, as we wrap up, I want you to leave our listeners with one final sort of encompassing thought here. Lindsay, what do you want to say to the woman who's listening right now, who feels like she just doesn't have this executive presence thing that you keep talking about? She does not have it, and she isn't sure that she ever will.
Confidence is just preparation. If you do something enough times, you will come across confident. You will have that executive presence.
That's amazing. So I think that's like a perfect way to wrap up. It's an incredible piece of advice. And I completely agree myself.
And then I'm going to even take it a step further. I'm going to offer something because I mentioned I have this amazing group of friends that I feel so lucky to have, because I recognize that not every woman has like a close group of professional friends that she can rely on.
Which is one of the reasons that we started this podcast, is that we wanted it to mimic For women who don't have that, we wanted it to mimic our WhatsApps with that, with our groups of professional women. So
Absolutely.
yes, some
So
people don't have that.
If you don't have that and you're listening, you're like, I have this like interview coming up. Literally connect with me on LinkedIn and say that and be like, would you just talk to me about this? And I'm happy to. Other women did that for me.
Lindsay, I love that.
Lindsay, you are so amazing.
I am here because other women advocated for me and supported me. So we got to pass it.
Same.
I love you so much. I love you so much. This has been such an amazing conversation. I always learn so much when I get to co-host this show and we have an incredible guest like you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. We'd like to
Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We'd like to ask listeners to follow our She Counts podcast LinkedIn page and join in on this conversation by sharing under Lindsay's episode, Presence, Not Performance. Is there one thing that you're going to try differently the next time you walk into a room or join a Zoom call? Share it with us. And if you can, let us know how it goes.
And before we sign off, I want to leave you with a quote by Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
I love Maya Angelou. That is such a great quote. Thank you all so much for being here with us on She Counts, especially you, Lindsay. It's just been wonderful. The Real Talk podcast for women in accounting.
If something in today's episode hit home for you, well, that's exactly why we're doing this.
So you feel seen, heard, and to Lindsay's point, never alone.
Remember that you can get CPE credit for listening at earmark.app. Links to that, as well as how to learn more about our sponsor solution and any other resource, will be in the show notes.
And please subscribe and leave us a review because it helps other women find the podcast. And share, if you're liking it, with another woman in accounting who needs to hear it too. Let's create some of that community.
Lindsay, I am so happy that I met you at a conference and got to know you and found another feminist to join us and come on the show. And I'm so happy that you came on and that you were here with us today. I learned a ton myself. And I think this was a really good topic. So I'm really happy that you brought it up.
Well, thank you so much. And it was so great to meet you. I love meeting other like strong, powerful women. So this is my like niche group.
Oh, that's amazing. Your niche group, strong, powerful women. I love it. That's a good niche to have. It's a good niche to have. I'm so glad that I learned your definition of executive presence, that concept of instilling confidence in others, that you're the person for the job. I'm going to carry that with me for sure. Thank you for being here, and we will see everyone in 2 weeks. Take care.